Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the review hour, or whatever I'm calling this. I'm looking around a lot, so I got a notebook here and computer there. Make sure it's all recording. Yada yada yada. I'm doing a review of Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. I know it's been out like what month, 2 months, 6 months, 10 months, a year, something like that. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I finally got to watch it. That's what I'm trying to make. Gonna jump right to it. Where's my pad? Okay, now I'm all here. Okay, so overall, decent movie. I liked it. No big complaints, so to speak. It did start off slow. I mean, it had established a backstory for the Redfields. Kept like the dead parents and Chris looking out for Claire and stuff like that. However, kind of slow, and tying Umbrella into it didn't really make much sense. Introduced the Birkins right off the, well, at least Mr. Birkin right off the bat, I forgot his first name, and Lisa Trevor, who actually, I'm not 100% sure who that is. I meant to look it up before I started this, but that's not the case, because I obviously didn't do that, but I don't know who Lisa Trevor is. I think it's a character in one of the Resident Evil games. I know that much, but I never came across her, so I can't say for sure, like, who it is. But I mean, overall, it was a slow start, but then it kind of picked up and everything else. A lot of people complain about like movies and stuff, like, oh, this character's supposed to be this skin color or that skin color, this, that, and whatnot. Like, I can look past that with this movie. I mean, it is what it is. They're trying to make their own thing. I thought it was kind of stupid, but it's whatever. But like my biggest complaint though about that is like the guy who plays Leon. I've seen him in something else before. He's an okay actor, so there's nothing wrong with that. And same with the lady who played Jill. Jill seemed a little too flirty and trigger happy. Still hot, but too flirty, too trigger happy for who she is. But then like with Leon, they basically turned him into a dumbass. Like, come on, like seriously, like he's naive. That's the point. But like he seems more of an idiot in this, and that was my biggest complaint. Like, it is what it is. Whoever you choose for the act to be Leon, it's like someone else probably would have been maybe better, but like whoever did it, he did a good job. That's I'm not arguing that. But they made him an idiot, and that was where the problem was. Because like he's not stupid, he's just naive. He's a rookie cop, and he just kind of does his own thing, or doesn't do his own thing, but like he's a rookie cop with a history, like not like a criminal history, but like with a history of sorts, in the sense like he's naive. That's the point. He's a rookie. He's naive. He's young. He's gonna be ignorant to the bigger picture of things. But like to make him basically a full-blown idiot, it's kind of insulting to the character. Now, what's his name? Not Robbie. No, he was Chris Redfield. Hang on, I got it right here. Hang on. I'll know the name once I see it. No, not Paul W.S. Anderson. No. Okay, what the frick? Where is it at? Man, I gotta look this up now. But like, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. I don't know how to pronounce his name. How to pronounce his name. Alright, let's see if this tells me how to pronounce it. Avon Joe. It doesn't matter how his name is pronounced. He did a good job. I thought he did a good job. He captured the character, but my complaint is the fact that the way his Leon was written was like he was more a moron versus just confused, being a rookie cop and all. And then like, I mean, he was a good pick. I won't get him wrong. I mean, my biggest complaint honestly is the hair, like the hair, but like with who they chose, I guess it is what it is. He's bringing his own spin, and I was watching like extras on the DVD, and after he was talking about how like he grew up watching Resident Evil and he loves it, or he grew up playing Resident Evil and he loves it and stuff. So like he knew the character, he captured the character in the sense of like who Leon is and was and all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed his portrayal, but it was like he was written as more of an idiot versus just young and naive, but shut up, phone. Okay. And like then like down to Claire, like her introduction into Raccoon City was Claire as a whole, like I don't like not going too much, but like her introduction as a whole, like she came off more of like what's the word? Like she more of a punk. Like when they introduced Claire, she's like Leon, young and naive and confused what's going on, but like looking for Chris. But like here, she seemed more of like a punk, a criminal. Like I don't know. Like and then like the dynamic with her and the dynamic with her and Chris. It's like I like in the original story, like they love each other, they care about each other. Whereas here, it's like, oh, I'm Claire, oh, I'm Chris, oh, hi Claire, screw you. Like he doesn't care about his sister, when in reality, like we know like in terms of story he does. But then in her introduction, like she was a part of the semi thing. The guy hits a zombie, he gets infected because his dog. We got to see a zombie dog, but gets infected and all that. Though the way the dog became a zombie was kind of gross, and then like he still drives Claire into town, or he drives her into town, but then she gets a bike that way, even though she had a bike come in. And the introductions was kind of like confusing. Like they changed it up. I get why they changed it up, but like they changed it up in the sense that like it kind of the opposite, so to speak, like the opposite of who they are and everything else. And like more or less, like in this sense, like throughout the thing, Chris is kind of an a-hole and stuff like that. But like in this, he's like a rude asshat. Like that sums up Chris. He's just like like he's better than everybody. He kind of gave off like, oh, I'm better than you, because I stayed here and I did this and I did. It's like, what, Chris, screw you. But I mean, I just how I see it, it's just I liked that they changed it up a little, because everybody knows the story, how they were introduced, but like they changed it up in the sense that like it felt different, basically, is what I'm getting at. But then like the nice little nod, like the itchy tasty thing, on the glass, creepy little kid sneaks under the table after breaking into the house, then Claire gets jumped and stuff, and then infected water, obviously, because conspiracy theories and stuff like that. Like the first 15 minutes, half hour, or whatever, it kind of, it was slow. Like it was just like a slow start. They introduced people, but it was still slow because like it's just like it was clunky. It was clunky, and like Leon was already in Raccoon City. He was at the police station when Stars was sent to the Spencer Mansion, even though he didn't come in until like 4 months later in the games. But I mean the RPD looked the same. I mean they kept that, so that was nice. I wish they would have explored it more though, because like people who don't understand what's going on, who've never played the games or anything like that, it just would have been cool to see like them just explore just a little bit more. But I mean, for the most part, at least Irons was the same, jerk of sorts, but like he was different. Like he was still a jerk of sorts, but like more helpful. He was trying to leave, and then he came back, helped, yada yada yada. So like they changed it up a little, but like he was still essentially like at the core the same. And that's the thing that at the core of it all these characters were the same, but at the same time they put their own twist, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But like it created some confusion, like. So it was like it was choppy, and then it was clunky, and then it was there, and then it was this, and then it was that, and then it all kind of meshed together, and then it was just weird. But like, although I will say, like, when it came down to like introducing the like all of Stars as a whole, like they had the friendly banter, which is a good thing. There's like all pre-Spencer Mansion. I did like though, like with Leon being there, he was in the room and they're like, Leon, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. You're a rookie. Go sit at the front desk. It's like, okay, you know, it's funny. There's banter and stuff, but you know, it was one of those things where it's like Leon was there pre-Spencer Mansion, which made no sense. Like they could have taken and it would have made more sense to start with like the pre-Spencer Mansion. You know, they go to the Spencer Mansion, but they could have done like 0 and 1 because those coincide. Like one's right after the other. They're like so it's like here's, you know, 0, and then like, you know, 2 minutes later, oh, here's Resident Evil 1, or like 12 hours later, however that works. It's all right there. Whereas 1 and 2, there's a gap. There's like a 2-month gap. So in terms of storytelling, it would have made sense to do 0 and 1, or just 1, 2 and 3, and then they could have meshed those stories, you know, and they could have been like, hey, this, you know, guy's gonna play Leon, this girl's gonna play Jill, this guy's gonna do this guy's gonna do that, but, you know, Leon and co aren't gonna show up till the second movie, but then, like, you know, from there, everyone else is here, they're already established, yada, yada, yada. I'm talking with my hands, sorry. You know, like, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I think it's like Trent or Mr. Trent or something like that. The guy who gave Jill like that Palm Pilot thing. But like in this, like it's in Wesker's locker. Like Wesker's there. It's like he seems less Wesker. He seems more human basically. Like he cares, but like there we go. He cares, but like. He doesn't have the glasses. He doesn't have his signature sunglasses yet. It's like they don't really establish who gave it to him. It's just like, hey, you know, there you go. Here's this thing to help you through the mansion that you're going to, even though nobody knew they were going to the mansion until that very moment. So it was like somebody knew something. Who is this guy? Where'd he go? And he's never showed up in the games after that, I don't think. So it's like interesting. Then it's like, where's Officer Brannick? You know, he played an integral part into Leon's story, and coming into the game, being introduced, and everything else. So it's like, where's he at? He plays a pivotal role. There was like no police officers, you know, except for Stars, which Stars is important to the story, but you know, it's like where are they at? Because they still play an integral part here. And then you might have like an officer here, an officer there, you know, bullet through the skull, bullet through the chest, and then the skull, like different things, but like they weren't there. Oh, and by the way, as I'm going through this, I'm just making notes as I came up with things. So basically, going from beginning to end with the movie, not all over the place. You know, as Leon's sitting there, he's chilling, he's just like sleeping, listening to music and stuff, which I don't know why they make him so sleepy. You know, the semi-crash, and the driver just waltzes on in like he's got a problem. Like, hey, you know, I'm on fire here. You're gonna help me, officer? Like, and then after he gets shot, which was funny, but like I don't recall in the games Leon ever actually meeting Chief Irons. Like I don't recall that. That doesn't say that didn't happen, but I don't recall it in the sense like the way the movie portrayed it. But once again, movie versus games versus books versus whatever. Like it's like, you know, speaking of the cops, like they established that Leon's dad was a cop, but it's like, okay, what happened to his dad? But then like I looked it up just to make sure I had my facts right, and like he wasn't in the original. He like they were like I don't know if it was established in the books or if it was established like in the games in like a document or something, but supposedly he's like a crime family. Leon got out, cops saved him after all of his family was dead, like this, that, and whatnot. And so it's like, you know, kind of interesting. Like, is that canon? Is it not canon? Is it just something they threw in, like with the crime thing? But then with his dad being a cop, it's like, where does dad go? Did his dad die on the job? Did his dad get involved with crime family? Like, is it canon, but their own form of the canon, but like its own canon, but it's different, but it's the same? I don't know. I guess if they make a sequel, they'll, you know, explain it, figure it out, something like. And of course, Wesker doesn't have sunglasses. But of course, at the same time, though, Jill is still a badass because it's Jill. Then they get up to Spencer Mansion and they're searching for the Bravo team. Mansion's still spooky as all be. Which in terms of the spook and the horror, they nailed that on the head. They had decent jump scares. They got that down. That part's the easy part to do, especially with a zombie movie of sorts. But there's some people missing. Where's Rebecca? She plays an integral part in Zero and right before the Spencer Mansion, even though she was young. And there's no mention of a Officer Chambers at all on Bravo team. And of course, I got to ask, as always, where's Billy? Because essentially that's why Bravo team was out there. They were escorting him. They happened to come across some zombies in the Spencer Mansion, so it was kind of just okay, who's who did what, where's everybody at? Do these people even exist, or do they exist but they're gonna be somewhere else, or are they just not gonna exist at all in this franchise, in this timeline of the franchise, this alternate universe or whatever they're establishing it as? Where's all that? And like I said, they could have done 0 and 1 instead of 1 and 2. They could have done 2 and 3 and 1 because Jill's involved with 3. They could have had mixed it up a little and had her meet with Leon and Claire, and all of that. A lot of F-bombs. That's for sure. I'm gonna throw that out there. The Umbrella Corps, still intense, still crazy. You gotta avoid them, stuff like that. But the one that they showed, it makes me wonder if that's Hunk or something. He's just this spooky, not spooky, secret character of sorts or whatever. Only survivor, but then he just kind of disappears from the story, But in terms of story, back to Leon, with his confusion and whatnot of what's going on. Hey, I'm new to Raccoon City, or he lived there, but he left, came back, or something. Something happened, and it's hey, I'm in Raccoon City. What's going on? Why is everybody dying? This, that, and whatnot. I get it. But the first time, I will say they also nailed in the head, back to Spencer Mansion, they nailed it on the head with the zombie, it's down, it's eating one of the STARS members, and then it's it slowly churns, and they see it for the first time. They got that. That was, doing that moment, if anybody who remembers me playing the first game, that was scary, that was intense. It's holy crap, what's happening? They got that down. And even though they didn't have Zero, one thing I'll say, they got the piano puzzle down. I think there was a piano puzzle in Zero, if I remember correctly. And then I think, yeah, and then there was one in 1, but Wesker did it instead of Chris. But then also in Zero, there was a piano puzzle sort of. So it's you could argue, they got a puzzle from the originals. Brad Vickers, though, he was a coward. He died too soon. His helicopter went down to crash Spencer Mansion. He was already dead. He's a coward, but he plays an integral part in the story as a whole. So it's one of those things where it's where's he at? What the heck? Like I said, they got the horror, they got the spook, they got all this down. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's one of those things where it's certain aspects, okay, they changed the story, whatever, but other ones, it's you changed it a lot. So, I guess, if they have, say they have, 6 more movies planned, for example, or 7, because there's 8 games, so, say they have 7 movies planned out, for example, right? Maybe, Vickers just doesn't play a part in it, which is possible, because he doesn't play any part in the games, and so, in 1 he does small part, and then in 3 small part, and he dies. So I get it, no sense of keeping him around. You're just gonna kill him off anyway. However, it's one of those things where it's you think give him more of a glorious death of sorts, since he seems less of a coward, I guess. And of course, jumping back to Raccoon City, because they jump back and forth so much. It seemed like Leon had some self-doubt, he couldn't live up to the hype or live up to his family's name or whatever. But speaking of Leon, at least his outfit, at least more towards the end, was more on point. He had the vest. It said RPD. He looked more Leon-y than he did in the beginning, although the hair's still wrong. But then, of course, Claire had her signature jacket, and Claire, it's easy, reddish hair, the jacket, you're good. And then, so it's hit or miss with that one. Then back to the Spencer Mansion. They went back and forth way too much in this. At once. But, I thought of this question, as I was watching, as I was progressing. It's is Wesker still the leader of Stars? Because he was taking orders obviously because Chief Irons was above him, but then it seemed more of he was too afraid to lead, and he was more, which obviously we know the story of Wesker, but it seemed like he was too afraid, he was too much of a coward versus just the Wesker we all know and love. So it seems like it's like a yes and no answer. Yes, he is the leader, but at the same time, no, he just kind of does his own thing, lets everybody do whatever they want type thing. He doesn't seem suave, but he still seems like the same driven, money hungry, power, give me it all type thing. But he's just not as Wesker, I guess, a different Wesker almost. I need a drink of water. Much better. Yeah, and the zombies have always seemed smart, in Fort, throw weapons and stuff like that, but almost the humanity was still there, but they seemed really smart. And then of course, back to RPD, I know small details too, Leon still holds his handgun the same, sorry. There was no RPD exploration. William Birkin was a big villain in the game itself, both in Leon and Claire's story. More in Claire's story, but he was a big villain in both of them, in the sense that he was there, he was an annoyance, and he was in the way, and you had to run from him and fight him and everything else. He was just kind of not there. He didn't become infected and the G virus thingy that he was until more towards the end. So it was Then I noticed they seem to have mixed Claire and Leon's story into one. Because they were together the whole movie. So, but it was one of those it's all right, here's Leon's story, here's Claire's story. We're just kind of mesh them together and go forward with it, which is fine and dandy, But Leon was never in the orphanage in the game, so maybe I'm being a little nitpicky here, but that's just, what I noticed. It seemed, just Leon didn't have to go to the orphanage, Claire didn't have to be in RPD, but I get it, they're mixing it up, they're changing it up, it's whatever. Liquors. There's only one liquor, that was kind of sad, because, they're scary, and very, 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 very scary. But I noticed they seem smaller inside. It could have just been movie magic, but they seemed smaller. Still intense, still scary, but they seem smaller in size, But I guess if they're newborn things, Lisa Trevor's still scary, but she saved them. And I have a complaint though, there's no puzzles, Lisa Trevor's just here, Claire, here's some keys for you to use on these doors. There was 4 keys and they only used, I'm assuming it was the heart key, I think. Yeah, I think it was just the heart key. Let's see, so the heart, clover, diamond. The point is, there was only 1 key used, so it was kind of just what are you doing? Why? You could have just taken the keys out, But I have a complaint because they didn't have to search for the keys. They didn't have to do all these puzzles. They didn't have to run from this or that or this or that. There's just, there was no puzzles. And Chris seemed less, which is not a bad thing. But Chris seemed less hot-headed. He wasn't as let's go, let's do this. He was just a jerk, And then I don't know. They made Jill very almost reckless with guns. Oh, there's a little birdie right here. Oh, it's right by Wesker's face. Oh, I'm just gonna shoot it like this. Bang, bang, bang. You could have like thrown something at her, shot her with a pistol, but she's like, oh, machine, or not. She's more like, oh, rifle, bang, 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 like, really? Oh. And then like, just trigger happy. She seemed very trigger happy. Ow, that hurt. And then finally Birkin shows back up. He's collecting everything. He's just like, oh, I need this, and I need that, and then some of these, and then I'm going to take my family and run, and then I'm going to inject it in me, and... like, his wife, Annette, right? They might have given her a different name, but they might have even named her, but, like, she seemed oblivious to like everything Birkin was doing, so it was like, she's oblivious, she had no idea what was going on, and like his wife and she, Mrs. Birkins, died like that, like it was instant. Like, she was only on screen for like what, 5-10 minutes, something like that, and like, I mean, it is what it is. If you have no use for the character, it's whatever. But like, she died fairly early. Not fairly early. She died late in the movie. But she was only there for like 5 minutes, and she contributed nothing to the story. They could have literally done the story with the way they did it without her, and had no problem progressing and stuff like that. Like, the only thing she contributed was like, oh, here you go, William. Here's this briefcase full of G-virus, so you can inject yourself, because you're an idiot, And Jill and Chris end up finding Sherry instead of Leon and Claire, which is, it is what it is, their story. But like, Wesker ends up helping them escape, and it kind of like redeemed himself. It was weird because like he's supposed to be like a overarching villain, like villain of it all at the end of the day. But it was weird because like he like redeemed himself. He's like, oh, I wasn't gonna shoot the kid, hey, I'm gonna help you get out of here, I mean, yeah, Jill shot him, but like he did his own undoing. He was trying to steal the G-virus, give it to a seller, and basically typical Wesker stuff. But like, this version of Wesker has a more like redeeming quality about him. Like he has honor still. I don't know. I guess we'll just see how it goes. But then like Birkin's mutation towards the end, like it was gross, but it was cool. Like it was cool because like it's gross in the sense that like it made him a terrifying villain. I mean, it was a little anticlimactic. Like it's like, oh yeah, we know he's gonna turn this, that, and whatnot. He wasn't as big and scary, but like he had the gross eye coming out of him, and he's like mutating and stuff like that. But like, and then the fight with him and Chris was just anticlimactic. And then Claire shows up, bang, boom, done, problem solved. It was anticlimactic. Then he mutated more, and like his story was like majorly shortened. Like once again, it was one of those things like they could have done without him. Like they could have done without him. They could have just mixed the stories, got rid of Birkin, kept Wesker, did that whole thing. Leon, they jump in the train, they're going, and then Birkin shows back up, more mutated. Claire stabs him, Chris shoots him. Then out of nowhere, Leon just shows up with an RPG, blasts Birkin. They're right there, and nobody's hurt. Maybe that'd be like a scratch, but like nobody's hurt, and they're just like, oh man, the rookie just did that. And it's like, I liked the quip, typical Leon is like, oh, I found this in first class. Like, okay, cool. They're at the end of the movie finally, getting to the nitty gritty of who Leon is and what he says and how awesome he is and stuff like that. But like, he just randomly at the end went from bumbling idiot to certified badass, and it's like, now wait a minute. Yes, it took time for him to become that certified BA, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, in this sense, it came out of nowhere. And it was just random, and then like, the four heroes, there's Chris and Claire and Leon and Jill, and they leave together, they survive with Sherry, and they progress, but then it's like, okay, what's going to happen next, which is kind of cool, and just wonder what's going to happen next. But like, instead of it being like, Chris and Jill and Claire and Leon, and like, progressing together, or like separately, but together, like they're just all there, and I got to know, okay, they survived together, and that's what matters. But it was just like, ow, I hit my desk. It was just like, you know, where and who and what and why and like the method behind it just it's a little confusing. But then like one thing I noticed, like there was no Rebecca Chambers, there was no Billy Cohen, there was no Ada Wong until the end credit scene. She shows up for like 2 seconds, hands Wesker his sunglasses, and then it's just like, we got work for you. Basically, she's like, hey, we've got plans for you, Wesker. Let's go. And it's like, Ada plays an integral part in Leon's story. Not necessarily Claire's, but like in Leon's story, Ada plays a big part. And she's reduced to an end credit scene, which, I mean, they could, expand on that later, which is fine. But it's like, if you're doing the story of Resident Evil 2, you got to include Ada on some level, even if she just like, here, Leon, here's an RPG, you don't know who I am, but I'm helping you here, and then disappears like she does in Resident Evil 4. It's just like, but, and then also, like, there's no tyrants. I mean, I guess you can count Birkin as a tyrant, but there's no tyrants. Mr. X doesn't exist. There's no nemesis. It's like, you shove 2 games, technically 3, but you shove 2 games into a movie that's only like an hour and a half, which is, nothing wrong with that. But then you leave out integral parts that kind of help the characters progress and grow and everything else in between, that it's like, you're missing some key elements of the story that make the story what it is. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Like, they don't need, 3 tyrants in a 1 hour and a half movie. They could have done just Mr. X. They could have done just Nemesis, or just a random tyrant. And, like, oh, here's stage 1, here's stage 2. Oh, look, it fought Birkin. Stage 3, stage whatever. Oh, look, it got blown up by an RPG like it does at the end of every single Resident Evil game, which is not a bad thing. RPGs are fun in those games. But still, and then, like, Wesker survived being shot. Obviously, if they would have killed Wesker off, they probably would have created a huge uproar. But, like, is he infected? I mean, I think he's infected. He was injected with something to keep him alive, but his body reacted differently, obviously, as we know. And then he got a send-off from Ada. And I mean, that's, like, the characters missing is my biggest complaint. Like Ada, there's no Rebecca, there's no Billy, but I mean, there's really no story with Billy aside from Resident Evil 0, so you could do without him, so to speak. But then, like, Ada being reduced to that end credit cameo is just kind of just like, it makes you scratch your head, because you're just like, what's going on here? She plays an integral part in the story. But then after the movie was done, it was playing extras and stuff, so, like, the cast and crew were talking, it was like 10 minutes, so I watched it. And I'll give them credit where it's due. They seem to enjoy making the movie, which is one thing that matters. They seem to love the movie, but then, like, Robbie Amell and Yvonne, the guy who played Leon, I can't pronounce his name right, so I'd rather not say it at all than to butcher it. That's just me. I don't want to butcher his name, because the guy who played Leon. They admitted to being fans of the franchise, and it's like, that's awesome. Like, if you're a fan of a franchise and you make a movie, no matter if it's the best movie in the world or the worst movie in existence, the fact that you love it so you can put in that effort and the characters front and back, and you can make them better, and you can put your own twist but staying true to the source material, like, that's awesome. And I feel like we need more of that. Like, even if it's like something like you learn about the character before you play the part, just to get a feel of stuff. That's just like, that's something that I feel like you don't get a lot of in movies anymore. So, like, having people who love the franchise, who love it, who can put their own twist but basically understand the assignment, like, that speaks volumes. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example here. So I saw this on the internet the other day as an article, like, to prepare. I mean, obviously we know Hayden Christensen played Anakin Skywalker, did a great job of it in my opinion, but, like, in order for him to get a better understanding of, like, how he's supposed to be in Kenobi, he watched Clone Wars and Rebels. And so it's like, he understands the assignment, but, like, he's doing, like, that extra credit to make sure the fans are happy. So it's like, if you understand, if you know nothing about the character, but then you jump in and you learn everything you can about it, I think that speaks volumes about how committed you are to the part and how much you love what you do. You know, and having these actors, you have, you know, the director is Resident Evil fan, you know, having the actors who are Resident Evil fans, I feel like that speaks volumes, because no matter, like I say, if the movie's the best or the worst or somewhere in between, it means a lot that they're putting in that effort, and I think that's one thing a lot of people overlook. But still, like, there's things missing that I hope they kind of expand upon. But like, I don't know, that's how I would do it. That's how I would view it. Like, if I'm not a fan of something, I'm either gonna learn or I'm just gonna say pass. So, you know, hard pass on it. So, like, down to my final thoughts and opinions on this, because I don't want to go too long with this video, as I already have. It did start off kind of slow, and, you know, my biggest complaint, aside from the characters, is the fact that, like, how come they didn't have to do any puzzles aside from the piano puzzle? Like, I mean, I had to struggle through the puzzles in the games. Like, come on, people, you know. By the way, that's a joke. I don't care, you know, because that'd be kind of boring to watch in a movie, honestly. But, like, overall, you know, I thought it was decent. You know, their backstories were established really well, even though they're different. The ending was anticlimactic, which, I mean, a lot of movies have been having that lately, like, just like an anticlimactic ending. I don't know why. I didn't care for some of the character changes. Like, more of just, like, their personality seemed a little off, but, like, but it was small stuff that, like, as a fan of the franchise, I can look past it, because it's like, you know, they're doing their best, so that's what matters. You know, if it was somebody, like, I'm trying to think, like, I know, for example, I know absolutely nothing about, like, the Uncharted franchise. So that'd be like, you know, if I was an actor getting a call, I'm like, hey, you want to be in the Uncharted franchise? Sure. And then learning absolutely nothing and absolutely destroying it because I'm oblivious. So, I mean, I give them credit there. You know, there's very few of the zombie dogs. There's one licker, and Birkin was just, he's just kind of there, you know. You know, watch the interviews and stuff. You know, like, you can tell they respect the franchise, and they put the effort. You know, the acting. You know, people. I saw things people were complaining about some of the acting. I thought the acting was good. I thought it was good. As somebody who watches a lot of movies and stuff like that, like, I'm one to sit there and I enjoy something for what it is. Like, even if it's like Eternals, for example. You know, if it on its own, it made a decent movie. You know, I mean, I had a few complaints, but it made a decent movie. But as the overall arcing as part of Marvel, it was probably the weakest Marvel movie I've seen. But, like, you know, I like to take stuff for what it is, kind of going with, like, you know, kind of like a midline expectation, so that way, you know, if it exceeds expectations, great. If it doesn't, you know, it's no big whoop. And with this, it wasn't the best Resident Evil media that I've experienced, but it was definitely, like, something, like, I would recommend it. Like, if somebody says, hey, you know, recommend a good movie, yeah, got a great cast, got great actors, I would recommend Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, especially somebody who's never experienced the Resident Evil franchise as a whole. It's like, okay, you might enjoy this if you like zombie movies or stuff like that. I still once again, I didn't care for Leon being portrayed as an idiot for most of it, and certain stories were short or they were non-existent, but once again, they may expand upon that later, so, you know, just have to wait and see. But they did make great use of the jump scares and the horror. I'll give them that. They made great use of that. Overall, I grade it 7 out of 10. You know, I give it a C. You know, it would be higher, but it seemed lacking in certain areas. But overall, a good movie. Would recommend it. Like, if it had, or if it would just been, you know, Resident Evil 1 or even Resident Evil 0. Like, if it just would have. If it would have tried to shove so much, I would have given it a higher score. But, like, I give it a C. You know, I would still recommend it. You know, and honestly, after watching it, I would like to see a sequel. Because, I mean, the ending basically set it up. You know, heroes walk away. You know, there's the end credits scene. Like, I would highly recommend this movie, whether you're a Resident Evil fan or not. Because it's just, if you sit there and just take it for the ride that it is, you'll enjoy it fairly decently, no problem, you know, whatever. And being a hardcore Resident Evil fan, I still enjoyed it for what it was, you know, like, So I guess we'll just wait and see. Like, who knows? They might make a sequel, and they might, pick up the slack, and they might make it better, and it could exceed expectations. So, like, I say just give it time. The movie's good. I mean, overall, that's really what matters. So yeah, that's my opinion. My thoughts. My review on it, basically. I basically just walked y'all through the whole movie, so you don't have to sit there for an hour and a half if you don't want to. But overall, I enjoyed it, so I would recommend it. Yeah. So I hope y'all enjoy. Good day, good week, good whatever, and I'll see you guys around.